Hello there, Voltage Modular people, Poohbear here, and welcome to my channel. And today we're going to be making a gated reverb snare, and I'll be making use of some of my modules, specifically the Precise Length AHR, which is quite a new module I've just released. Now, I'm not going to be making a fancy snare, so I'm not going to be getting any white noise and some squares and some other things and some a bandpass filter and all sorts of other things. I'm just going to be using the snare and the clap from the Misfit Audios. I'm also going to be using myself a trig gate, so I can actually take the gate out of this and very quickly I can also put the trigger into that, so I can drive them too. I'm going to take from here, I'm going to go into a mixer. You should really use a mono mixer. I have a habit of just grabbing this stereo mixer, mainly because later on I can obviously decide if where I want to put the mono stuff in the stereo field. But for now, we're just going to be putting it into this for just for a very basic bit of mixing. Let's listen to what we've got. Personally, I think that is sounding way too loud, so I'm just going to go, I'm going to turn that down a little bit up the top here, but I'm actually going to turn this snare down a bit. So everything you set up here, anything you decide that you're going to change, you know, that's down to you. You don't have to make any changes to these at all for this to work. I'm going to leave it at that. Now, at the moment, the clap is quite dominant in this, but don't worry, as soon as we put ourselves a nice reverb on it, that's going to be washed away. And I'm going to go for the PSP Space. It's a reverb I really do like. I've always liked this reverb, and that's very quickly, without changing any other settings, I'm just going to wire it through. Let's hear what it sounds like. Very nice indeed. So very quickly, I'm now going to bring out my Precise Length AHR. Actually, I'm going to change my colors today. Let's have a go for this kind of color. So this itself is an attack, hold and release envelope, but it also has a zero attack and a zero release, so it can be operated as a gate, and we're doing a gated reverb. So hey, it's all in the name. So I'm going to take the audio, which is coming out of the PSP, I'm going to put it into the main. From that, I'm going to go take the main out and put that straight to the out up here. And all we need to do is obviously set the length, and I'm going to go for around about half a second, I'd say, or maybe even less. So let's go there, that would do. I'm just going to click on go, he says, and it's like, brilliant, nothing happens. Don't you love it when you're in a live scenario like this and nothing works? All right, okay, I need a trigger. So there we go, quite straightforward. If you didn't hear that, I needed trigger information. So let's try that again. Brilliant. So it's sounding quite good, and I haven't really sort of changed anything. The only thing I don't quite like, it's not too bad. I don't know how it's coming across with YouTube, especially with the compression and that. I'm actually going to turn this up just a little bit more. Now we've actually got that reverb in here. Yeah. I find that at the end of it, it sort of sucks it back. There's like a... Yeah, and all I'm going to do there is I'm just going to give this a little bit of release, and I'm going to push a little bit of curve on there. So we're still going to be keeping that gate really high, and I'm just going to curve it off just a very small amount, and that should give it more of a pushing it out rather than a sucking it in. Yeah, I like that. Absolutely like that. So there we go. There is a basic gated reverb snare, and what I'm going to do now is actually make another version of this using virtually all the same modules, but we're going to make it sound even bigger, and I'll show you a different way we can actually use the Precise Length AHR. So I'm going to quickly right click here now, and I'm going to say duplicate cabinets. I don't need the external cables. The external cables will just wire that up into there. I don't need that for the moment. And as I'm actually here, I'm going to quickly grab myself another stereo mixer to whack that over there. I was going to push that one over to that one, and that can go to the out, and that one can go to the out. And what I need over here is a voltage controlled mixer. So under mixers, there we go, voltage controlled mixer. Let's whack that into there. Brilliant. And so let me zoom back in again so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to take the left audio out. I'm going to put that into input 1. The input 2 is going to go into the right hand side. Then I'm going to hard pan these obviously left and right. So I'm going to really be keeping my stereo stuff. Then we need to grab this and push this into here. That would do. Take the first lot of ports, I can see. Brilliant. Now what we should get at the moment is just a nice big lush sound. So what we need to do now is we're going to need to put the gate it basically. So I'm going to grab this down and I'm going to take this side over here is a constant voltage. I'm going to bring that over here. I am going to push this level all the way up. Theoretically, I should really pull that level down to there, but I wanted to show and demonstrate we can actually attenuate it at this end as well, so we can specify what voltage we want out. So if I had it on 5 volts, that would be equivalent of this going all the way to the top, which we don't want. So I'm putting it around about 3 volts. So I'm hoping it's going to sort of stop around about there-ish, or sound about there-ish. And I shouldn't have to change any other settings. And there we go, we've got 2 different types. Now, I think without a doubt, this sounds nicer in a way. But to be honest, this would be probably the sound I'd more likely put into a mix, because I know this is fit into a mix really nice, whereas this is just gets a little bit too lush. I can choose the stereo field where I'm going to put that. Because of the wideness of the reverb, you've already had the stereo field kind of selected for you. But this would be great in a breakdown, whereas I said this actually inside a mix, yeah, that'd be fine. And all the extra noise goes to waste inside a mix personally. So the next stage I'm actually going to do is just use a couple of my modules just to drive these. And I'm just going to show a couple of different ways that we can actually use those particular modules. So I'm just going to grab this and just join them up together, just giving myself a little bit of room. Same here, just give ourselves a bit of room. We're not pushing everything around left, right and centre. And the first thing I'm going to grab myself is a storing forward. Now storing forward, admittedly, is a sequencer, but if you don't add anything into it, it works like a clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab myself a gator, boom, 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 zoom straight in. So if I was to put this into this gate here, turn this link on, you can see the clock is going. So this is set to 16ths at the moment. And hey, we've got ourselves a clock coming through here. One thing what people don't realise maybe with Gator is like a clock divider as well. So obviously if I was to take all these off, I've now just turned this clock here, which is 16th, and if I was to wire that output, that's going to be equivalent of 8ths. And obviously if I was to take them two out, it'd be equivalent of quarters. But it means you can do bizarre things like that. So I'm going to have this length and then I'm going to have this length. So you can sort of clock divide yourself, really weird lengths, especially as you can really start to link these together. And if you went to a faster speed and then use these to gate it or divide it down, you can get some very, very funny and really cool things going on. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Stay focused to the job at hand. So what I'm actually going to need now is I'm going to grab myself a flip-flop counter. And the reason I'm going to grab myself a flip-flop counter, because if I was to take this and to wire this up to, well, I need to get this wired up to all the other gates, so I need to zoom out. I'm going to hold down my control key, he says, then I'm going to click on that, which is the command key on the Mac. So then I'm going to click, and then I need to click over here. Bosh. So we've got something going, brilliant. Now I'm going to use this flip-flop counter because what I usually do is set this flip-flop counter, say, to something like an 8. And the reason I set it to 8 because I'm going to play 7 of them, and then over here I would do a different pattern on here, and then I'll play one of these. So we're going to wire this up slightly different. So I'm going to hold my shift key down now. I'm going to grab all these wires and put that into X. I'm then going to take that out and put that into A. I'm going to take this out and zoom back in again, he says. There we go. I'm going to put that into B. Brilliant. So on flip, I want this going to X, correct. The fact it's pointing to Y, it doesn't make no difference. Same, this one's going to Y, so I'm not wiring anything into there, and I want that one on X. So if I could leave that on, I say, pointing at Y, or I could just turn these off. It doesn't really matter. I suppose if I turn them off, I don't forget. And I'm actually going to pull this down to 4, so we're not waiting quite as long for it to flip from one side to the other. Now, the only other thing I should really do over here is I'm going to get myself another trig gate, he says. So let's grab that trig gate in there. And the reason I'm going to use this trig gate, and again, I'm going to hold down my control or command, and then I can go, I'm going to restart this, I'm going to reset this, I'm going to reset this, and I'm going to reset this. So when I hit go here, it's going to make sure this is on step number 1, this is on step number 1, this is back on starts actually at 0, so the very first trigger which comes in, which we haven't done, so we've got to add a trigger in, it would move that forward one, and it push this back to the beginning. There's nothing to push this back to the beginning because it's not a sequencer. Usually when it's a sequencer, we'd want it always to start obviously from step number 1. So that's more habit that I've actually plugged it into that one. But also the other thing about this restart is if you hit a reset, so let's say restart, so I've got resets on the others, restart on this one, it does automatically turn the out on. That's what that little link, there's a little link light hidden away underneath this, which is on as default, which means it would turn that out on when you hit a reset. So the only thing we've got to do is trigger this, and basically every loop I want this to count up 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this trigger out, I'm going to put it into here, and if we look here, we've got all these different options, and one I'm interested in is first. So it means the first time a trigger is going to come into here, we're going to actually do we're not going to actually do a flip-flop, we're going to do a count, but once we've gotten to the third or the fourth one, we're then going to go over here and we'll flop over to here. So I'm going to make sure that says first, and that should be it. That should actually start working. Now listen to what's happening over here, this step. Once more. So what it is, this is actually a fixed length, and it doesn't matter if it receives an extra trigger, which is this trigger here, it's not going to actually re-trigger the length of this particular envelope. Now we can do by hitting this restart. And if we play this now, you'd actually hear it. But what I don't like about it is there's too much reverb. You hear it, so it starts to build up. Whoops. And that second, so you hear that, you kind of hear that, but that sort of gets a bit lost as well. So I don't personally like that. I like the fact that this is a fixed length, and this kind of length is virtually saying, hey, once I start, on this step here, around about 400 odd milliseconds, I reckon is around about there-ish. I'm only guessing, but I reckon it's around about there-ish. So hence you hear that one, you hear this is firing off, and it's going through the system, so you're hearing it at the tail end of this gate finishing. So it's just coming through, and then it's being pulled really, really quite tight. It's a sound I personally like. You may not. You may say, no, I'm going to go with the restart. It makes it sound a little bit different because it's going and that's that. Now, very, very quickly, and I'm going to do this last bit very, 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 very quickly. It's virtually the same as what we've got going on at the top here. I'm just going to sort of show it a slightly different way. And I should have actually changed my channel number before I made a copy of these. So all these have to be on the same channel number. And hence why I didn't have to wire this gator up here, by the way, just in case you thought, hey, I didn't put anything into the gate in for it to be driven by the storing forward, because this is on channel 0, this is on channel 0, so it takes its gate information and this sort of information automatically over. That's what makes gator a little bit special. But we're also going to wire it up a little bit differently. So this time here, I'm going to wire this like this. And again, usually I'll have 8 of these if I was doing this, because of the patterns I like to do. So I'm just going to go from an out to an in, out to an in, out to an out, right back to the beginning to an in. I'm going to say this one here is the master. I want this to restart at the beginning when I hit obviously my go at the top here. I need some information to drive it, so I can drive it from there. And I'm just going to drop off the top one, so we can only hear the bottom one only. And now what we need to do, obviously, we need to send some output. So all these global outs, in this particular case, are sending out exactly the same information. So when it comes through this one, it's going to send that out of there. When it comes down to here, it's going to send that out of here, that one out of here, and also and all the rest. And it's going to send all that data out of here into there. These outs are specific for the unit only. So this out here would only ever send them 3 steps, and when it's going through them, nothing comes out. So it's just in 3 steps. So you can actually use these to your advantage. That's the great thing about splitting them out, say, over having to say something like a flip-flop, is we can come off and we can break away, especially when we start using the first or the last steps within the actual gator options here to get an extra signal out. We can do quite clever things. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to hold my control or command. I'm getting there, Mac people. And I'm just going to grab all this gate information over. He says, oh, I missed it. I think, oh no, I need a shift, sorry. I need to grab a shift and put that into my global out. And then theoretically, when I hit go up the top here, we're now playing this bottom lot. we can play them both together. Right, that really is it. All that leaves me to say is thank you for watching and bye for now.